And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and these are the best cards from Betrayers of Kamigawa. I am going through all of the older sets, picking out all the 10 best cards for Commander, and I am currently in the middle of the Kamigawa Block right now. I just did Champions of Kamigawa, and of course the next set in the series is Betrayers of Kamigawa. As I've said before, they used to have blocks, which had 3 sets in each. So this is the second one in the series, and it's a bit of a tough one. You know, I am going to come across these sets sometimes where it's not the greatest set ever for Commander, and I got to go pretty deep in order to get cards that are good in the Commander format, as you will probably see from this list. So, starting out at number 10, Hero's Demise. 1 and a black instant, destroy target legendary creature. So, as removal spells go, this isn't great. However, in the Commander format, it's pretty good, right? Because almost always you're going to have that legendary creature. It's in the command zone. So, this is always going to have lots of targets. You see legendary creatures in the 99 all the time. Now, this isn't the greatest removal spell in the format. For me, I don't know if I would actually ever find room for this in one of my decks, especially with all the great removal we have now. But this gives you an idea. Like, part of the idea of this series is to also sort of evaluate how good a set is in Commander. And if you have this make the top 10, probably means it's not the best set ever for Commander, but we'll move up the list. Coming in at number 9, Day of Destiny. 3 and a white, legendary enchantment. Legendary creatures you control get +2/+2. So again, everyone's got a legendary creature. It's their Commander. This can just be an easy way to give your Commander a +2/+2 bump. But we also have some legendary commanders as well, right? There are decks that want to be playing this. There's quite a few actually decks out there that are sort of doing a legendary tribal thing. So this is a great card for that as well. Again, I'm going pretty deep here. You're not going to see this in Commander a lot, but there are certain decks where this card wants to be played for sure. Coming in at number 8, Mirror Gallery, 5 mana artifact. The legend rule doesn't apply. And of course, when this card was first printed, it was very noteworthy because there had never been a card like it before. We do have other options now. This is a card that has sort of fallen off in popularity a little bit, but it is a very significant card in the Commander format. Again, for the same reason that you have that legendary creature in your command zone that you're probably going to want to copy. Now, we have gotten better options, more options, but there still might be a lot of decks out there that want to be copying their Commander. And of course, if that is the case, you do not want the legend rule to apply. There's a lot of other reasons to do it as well, right? This is any legendary permanent, not just your Commander. Maybe you want to copy your Gaia's Cradle and have 2 of those in play, right? So there are other reasons why you might be wanting to copy legendary permanents that other cards might not be able to do this as well as Mirror Gallery does. So I think it is still a very relevant card in the format. Coming in at number 7, Life Gift. 2 and a green enchantment. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, you may gain 1 life. And this is a card that kind of flies under the radar, and I think it's a great one. Obviously, you could put this in a landfall theme, right? It has that landfall trigger whenever a land enters the battlefield. However, why this card I think is significant and differs from a lot of those other ones is it is any land entering the battlefield. This is a Soul Warden type of effect for lands, right? You don't see that very often. Yes, you're going to be gaining life every time you play lands, but every time your opponents do, you're going to be gaining life off it as well. And if they're ramping like crazy, you're going to get a ton of life. There actually isn't that many cards that are going to be benefiting you from your opponents playing lands as well. So this isn't necessarily going to be a I'm in a landfall deck. It's going to be a card that's going to be good no matter what anyone's doing, because everyone who plays lands, which everyone will be doing in a Commander game, you're going to be gaining life off of. So maybe this is a great fit in a life gain deck, right? There's a lot of commanders out there that want you to be gaining life, and probably on other opponents' turns as well, right? Just like with a Soul Warden, that's a great way to gain life on your opponent's turns because they're playing creatures on their turn and your opponents are playing lands on their turn. So Life Gift is a great way to get those life gain triggers on your opponent's turn, which you might want to be doing. Coming in at number 6, In the Web of War. 3 red enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. This one I mentioned on my 10 card series because it's one of those cards that I just think should see more play. It's pretty fantastic. You really are going super aggressive with a card like this. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be an aggressive, aggro, attacky theme. This can just be a great way to give your creatures haste automatically. And obviously, haste haste is only important on the turn that those creatures come into play. If they only get haste until end of turn, that's probably all you want. On your next turn, it's not going to matter anymore. So this is just an easy way to give your creatures haste immediately as soon as they come into play, but also that +2/+0 bump can be fantastic as well. In like a Krenko deck, this just seems phenomenal because now I'm going to tap my Krenko, create 10 goblin tokens. They're all going to get +2/+0 and haste. So they're all 3/1 hasters. That can pretty much kill somebody, right? This is a great card in a lot of decks, and I think it should probably see a little bit more play. Coming in at number 5, Toshiro Umezawa. 1 black, legendary creature, human samurai 2/2, has Bushido 1. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you may cast target instant card from your graveyard. If the spell would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. So this is a legendary creature. Obviously, it can be your commander. I think it makes for a very interesting commander, but of course, I'm mostly talking about cards in the 99 here, and I think this is a great legendary creature for in the 99 of a lot of decks. Obviously, in a deck where you are killing your opponent's creatures lots, right? That's where I think this card fits in the 99 really, really well. Being able to cast an instant card from your graveyard, usually you got a lot of those lying around. You don't really need to build around this. You can a little bit, right? So if you're in a deck that is black, that is going to have lots of instants in your graveyard, this can be a great inclusion because your opponent's creatures are dying all the time, no matter what. You don't even have to do anything. It's just a free trigger that allows you to cast an instant from your graveyard. So it's a great fit there. It's also a great fit in any deck where you are planning on killing your opponent's creatures a lot. Of course, in black, there's a lot of those themes as well. So Toshiro Umezawa is a great fit in the 99 of a lot of decks, I think. Coming in at number 4, Mark of Sakiko, another one I mentioned on my 10 card series that I think is a great fit in a lot of decks. 1 and a green, enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature has, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, add that much green. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. This card can go in a lot of decks. It's a great way to get tons of free mana. As I've talked about before, I have this in my Questing Beast deck because I'm attacking with that guy all the time. Every time I connect, even if I don't have any buffing at all, I'm getting 4 mana that I can use on my second main phase. I talk about this with Nature's Will. I talk about this with Sword of Feast and Famine. Those cards are really great and people like them a lot because it essentially gives you all that extra mana on your second main phase where you can do a bunch of stuff. Mark of Sakiko has a similar effect that way. If you are in green and you plan on connecting with your commander all the time and your commander has a decent power, because of course you're adding that much green, this is a great way to get a bunch of extra mana on your second main phase so that you can do a whole bunch more stuff. Really great card. Coming in at number 3, Nikote, 3 mana artifact equipment. When an equipped creature deals damage to a creature, tap that creature. That creature does not untap during its controller's untap step for as long as Nikote remains on the battlefield. Whenever an equipped creature deals damage to a player, that player loses 1 life and has equipped 2. So this is a card that I think has flown under the radar a lot, and it's again another card I mentioned on my 10 card series, and it actually is really, really good in a lot of decks. And the reason why is because of the wording here. Whenever equipped creature deals damage to a creature, or whenever equipped creature deals damage to a player, this is not combat damage. Now, of course, it can be combat damage, but it doesn't have to be. And that's why this card is really, really fantastic in a lot of decks. If you have a commander that is just straight up dealing damage to stuff, maybe your commander's a pinger, maybe it deals damage to creatures in another way, you're going to tap down those creatures, right? If your commander deals 1 or 2 damage to a creature, might not kill it, but you will tap it down. And that creature doesn't untap for as long as Nikote remains on the battlefield. It doesn't matter if this becomes unequipped. It doesn't matter if your commander gets killed or whatever other creature gets killed. As long as this is sitting on the battlefield, even if it's just not equipped to anything at all, those creatures that have been dealt damage will not untap. They got to get this off the battlefield. And again, the deal damage to a player one can be very significant as well. I have this in my Bralin deck because my Bralin is dealing lots of damage to my opponents without actually doing combat damage. He's just sitting there, and every time I discard cards, he's dealing damage to all my opponents, and when he does so, they will lose life as well. So it basically is doing double duty for my commander because every time he deals a damage, they're going to lose a life as well, so they're losing 2 life. Fantastic fit in any of those decks as well. This card should go in a lot more decks in my opinion. Coming in at number 2 is our second legendary creature on the list, Kira Great Glass Spinner, 1 blue, legendary creature, spirit 2/2 with with flying. Creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability for the first time each turn, counter that spell or ability. Just a really great card in blue for protecting your creatures. Now, of course, again, this can be your commander. Makes for an interesting commander. I'm actually not even sure how you would build this deck. There is a lot of different ways you can go with it. It's basically just a commander that is going to be protecting your stuff. But again, in the 99 is why I'm talking about this. And this is just a fantastic card in the format for protecting your creatures. And it's really good for, I want to protect my commander and I tap out to cast my commander and now I don't have mana for a counterspell or anything else, but I got my Kira on the table and my Kira is going to make sure my commander just doesn't die to a path or swords or whatever. Because whenever they become the target of that spell, it's going to get countered. Your opponents have to work around this a little bit, right? Now, you have to work around it as well, of course, right? If you try to equip your creature, it's going to get countered the first time because that is a spell or ability that is targeting your creature. So you're going to have to do it again. Sometimes you do have to work around this. It's like Shroud, right? Shroud works the same way where sometimes you can kind of screw yourself there. It is very helpful for protecting your stuff, but you got to be careful with it. I really like Kira though as just this blanket protection from all my creatures, right? Against spot removal in particularly, it's really, really good and fits in the 99 of a lot of decks. But coming in at number 1 by an absolute mile, because of course, like I said, Betrayers of Kamigawa, not the greatest commander set ever, but number 1 on this list is without a doubt, and that's Umezawa's Jeet. 2 mana, legendary artifact, equipment. When equipped creature deals combat damage, put 2 charge counters on Umezawa's Jeet. Remove a charge counter from it, choose 1. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, or target creature gets -1/-1, or you gain 2 life and has equipped 2. And this is one of those cards that is just so infamous in the game that it doesn't need a whole lot of explanation. The modal aspect is what makes this so fantastic. Being able to remove those counters at instant speed, no mana is required. Someone's about to destroy your Umezawa's Jit, you can just remove the counters in response to gain a bunch of life or kill one of your opponent's creatures. You have 8 counters on this. You can gain some life, do some boosting, save your creature from a toxic deluge maybe by buffing their toughness, remove a creature. You know, you always at the very least you're going to be able to gain life with this, which is great. This card, I don't know if it specifically fits in any deck. I guess a Voltron deck or any equipment deck, it's great, but you could throw this in any deck. And the important wording here again, and it's funny because I just played against a patron in a game recently where they didn't understand why this card was so fantastic because they thought it was when equipped creature deals combat damage to a player. No, it's just dealing combat damage, period. So if your creature blocks, it's dealing combat damage, so then it's going to get counters on it. If you attack and your opponent chumps with a creature, it's getting counters on it. You're almost always going to get counters on this thing. That's what makes this such a fantastic card. It is really difficult for your opponent to not have counters put on this. They need some sort of fog effect, right? You need a prevent damage effect in order to not get counters on this guy. That's why this card is so fantastic. One of the reasons why this card is so fantastic. Phenomenal card in a commander game. One of the best equipments of all time. And without a doubt, in the commander format and probably in every other format as well, the best card from Betrayers of Kamigawa. But that is it. That is all. What did I miss? Was there anything, it was a bit of a difficult one here, but was there something that you guys really like from Betrayers of Kamigawa that I didn't mention here? Let me know in the comments below. But that is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.